everybody, and welcome to the Best Friends Club Podcast. We are your hosts. My name is Fizz.
My name is Charlotte.
We actually have a special guest today.
We
Would you like to
do.
introduce yourself?
Hello, my name is Sam.
Hello,
Nice to
Sam.
meet
Sam.
Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. And today is, I say a special episode, but I suppose it's not really, but it sort of is. We're going to be talking about TATINOF, The Amazing Tour Is Not on Fire. In the lead up to TIT, or Terrible Influence Tour, as some common folk may know it, we thought we'd discuss all of their tours. And what better place to start than with the OG?
The OG, the first one, the first child, the firstborn, if you will.
Firstborn, most loved. Is that not what? Is that the phrase? Like, if it's a first child, they're the most loved. Is that
I would
thing,
not
or is that
know.
like?
I'm the youngest sibling. I would not know.
That's wild. I'm also youngest. That's a wild story.
I'm the oldest, so I don't know. Maybe.
But no, we're doing TATINOF today. What a wild, before you get into it, which what a wild time in the fandom.
Truly
to,
was.
Just be in there. Yeah.
Sam, would you like to share with the listeners how you got into Dan and Phil? We'll give some Sam lore before we get into the episode, and you can share your history with Dan and Phil.
I was like, okay, I'm a journalism major, so I'm usually on the other end. So I'm like, how on earth am I going to answer this question? It sounds so surreal, but I'm 19. I'm a youngin'. And so Dan and Phil have sort of always been there weirdly in my life because of my older sisters. They introduced me to Dan and Phil when I was
that's so sweet.
That's so cute though.
Yeah. I think I forgot maybe 6 years old. It's because I grew up with YouTube, and so the first ever video was their Christmas interactive video, and the first thing I said watching these two, I'm like, oh, are these brothers? I was like,
That's
oh my god, they're related, right? And my sister was like, well, it'd be really weird if they were, Samantha. And I was like, oh, what does that mean? But in my 6-year-old brain, I had no idea what it meant because I'm 6 years old. So yeah, that's how I got
so funny.
When did you start watching them, as a viewer?
So I feel like I was a casual viewer in my 12, 13-ish years. But actually, no, I think that's when I started watching info, 12 and 13. So right at stereotypical emo phase age. And I'm like, these guys are kind of cool. But even before that, I think just in the YouTube space, I was aware of them. I was aware of Dan and Phil, especially during all the TATINOF stuff happened. I was like, why are these two YouTubers on a tour? But yeah, I was really into them right during before Interactive Introverts. Right when Phil changed his hair, that's when I was like, I like Phil and I'm gonna start watching him because he's funny and handsome.
Have I been outnumbered again?
We continue to bring Phillies on the pod.
Where are my Dannies? Where are they? They must be out there somewhere.
I will say though, I was first attracted to Phil, not in a gay way. I'm a lesbian, first and foremost. He looked like a lesbian, so maybe I don't know. But he was the rated PG person, even though he kind of really wasn't. And so in my kid brain, I'm like, oh, he's the one to watch. Dan's too edgy for me.
Damn, that's fair. That's fair.
But I loved Dan and Phil when they were together. But I'm so sorry, Dan. I love you, but too edgy for me.
Oh, it's okay. Dan has Charlotte makes up for a huge part of the Danny side. It's fine.
I know. I know. I've listened to the podcast.
Oh.
Oh my god, I feel called out. I feel attacked.
I'm like, he does. He has a smile. He has the dimples. I get it.
Your heart belongs to Phil, and that's fine. It's okay.
Shot tired. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Super. That's really interesting. I always find it so bizarre when people are like, "Oh, I was watching Dan and Phil when I was like 8." Like that is just absolutely insane to me. I don't know if that's because I watched them when I was older, sort of like I knew sort of like I was more aware of like the content that they were posting. So to think of like a 6-year-old watching their videos is just baffling to me.
Same. I'm like, I should have not been on the internet at all, but there I was, unsupervised, on the laptop.
On the laptop watching Phil is on Fire.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh my god, I haven't I definitely watched that when like I got into like Phil, because obviously like algorithm kept pushing like older stuff, and I'm like, what
Mm-hmm.
the hell is this like fan theory? I'm like, what are you
Oh
guys talking?
no. Oh no. And then, yeah, it's just like a rabbit hole that you just kind of
Yeah,
never climb out of, actually.
yeah, and
That's
here I
weird.
am.
That's weird.
So let us cast our minds back. We'll hop into our time machine and we're zooming back into the past. It's March 2015. I'm
I'm a baby. I should have been.
a baby. I was 19 years old.
I was 17. Almost 17.
And I
We've
was a
all
little
lived.
10-year-old kid.
That's insane.
That's
We are all
crazy.
living a peaceful existence. We're watching our Dan and Phil Games videos. We're hanging out at home with not a care in the world. And then
Can I interrupt? Can I interrupt?
Dan,
You might have been peaceful. It had been a day since Zen left One Direction. So I was not I was not living a peaceful life when this happened. So okay. Dan Phil Games is happening. 2015. We're all young. Zen had
we're
left
all
One
young.
Direction.
R.I.P. It's a peaceful Thursday evening on March 26, 2015, when Dan and Phil both tweet a link to a YouTube video with absolutely no caption whatsoever. The video has no title, and we all click play. And what transpires is a trailer for their book and tour. Everyone loses their mind, and everybody dies. The end.
Yeah. That is honestly, that is it. That's it.
That's what it
Episode
felt
over.
like.
Yeah.
Now is very realistic. Everyone's gone. Everyone's dead.
Oh my god, no, I wish. It was like 11 p.m. for me when this happened, and it was a school night, obviously. So I I how long is that trailer? It's like 2 and a bit minutes long, and you don't
Yeah,
even know
something
what's
like
going
that.
on. Yeah, and you don't even know what's going on until the end of it, where they reveal like there was a ticket and there was a book, and I like all hell broke loose. Like my timeline was a mess. What about you? Like,
So I wasn't in the fandom at this point. I was on the cusp of making my fandom account. I was literally like weeks away from making a fandom Twitter account. So I was still sort of just on my main Twitter account tweeting shit about Dan and Phil.
fair. Perfect
But
fair.
I lost my mind. I found the entire thread of tweets that I made of my reaction of watching this announcement video and tweeting it. And if you were all like to, I will share a recreation of the tweets that I tweeted
Yes, obviously. Yeah.
back on
Go ahead.
March 26, 2015.
Go ahead.
What's going on? What the fuck are those videos? A book? Book? A book, a book, and then just descends into like keyboard smashing of various words of like a book tour, book, fucking crying, a book, an actual book and a tour.
I love a good book. And I love books.
She's an intellectual. She loves reading. Me when the book is good, like Good for you, Charlotte. Did you have anyone on that account where you like shared the joy with, or were you just sort of like yelling into the void?
So I had a couple of people that I would say more like sort of casual watchers.
Mm-hmm.
And I did
Mm-hmm.
have my friend Lucy. So Lucy was sort of my first like actual proper fandom friend who
Sure.
convinced me to make my fan account on Twitter. Um, so I was sort of speaking to her a little bit, but I wasn't like super close with her like at this point really.
Sure. Wow, the
Just
origins
a
of
lot of
Charlotte.
shouting, yeah, but just a
Yeah.
lot of shouting into the void.
That's so fair. Mine, so I didn't tweet anything while watching the video. I think I just sort of watched in shock. And then I had a more negative, but also just like very confused reaction to it because so I said, okay, so I was kind of but the description of the book makes it sound kind of nice. Question mark, question mark. And that was like my initial sort of reaction to it. And then I think I got used to it and I got really excited about the book, and I was like kind of indifferent to the door because I mean I didn't know where they were going, so I was like it doesn't matter to me. But I really warmed up to the book very quickly. I was like, this sounds cool. Like there's gonna be Phil diary entries in it, and what else did I? Oh, there's a tweet. There's extracts from Phil's diary and written reasons why dancer failed. You can't say the book won't be worth it. I mean, I guess. I
Speak
think I
that truth,
just
Fizz.
exactly. No, I was excited from whatever preview that they had given. Um, but just the initial of another YouTuber book, another YouTuber tour. But we'll get into that.
Do you remember anything from this time, Sam? If you were sort of like casually watching them, like do you have
I'm
any? Do you know
pretty
anything
sure
about this time?
it's like I have no idea the order of like YouTuber books because that is a whole era that like is so interesting to me, like the YouTuber to book author to tour pipeline, and like it still somewhat exists today. It's just more like mild, but I definitely remember like going to Barnes and Noble and my sisters like going to the YouTuber section and pulling out like I don't know if Tyler Oakley had his book by then or like Shane Dawson. I'm pretty sure he had one. And they're like, "Oh my god, like Dan and Phil have a book." And I'm like, "Oh, question mark." I'm like, "What do YouTubers even talk about in a book?" Cuz to me, they're just sort of like in my like young brain, in my 10-year-old brain, I'm like, "These are just like characters on a screen. They're not real people at all." Like, what do you mean?
No, that's fair. I think what you've sort of described there is pretty much the exact reaction that lots of people had. Why have they written a
Mm.
book? What are they going to talk about? I think I didn't look at all of these details, but I think at this point, Zoella had already announced her book. Maybe PewDiePie had done his. Tyler had done his, I think.
Um,
And
Alfie had done his the Rectic
yeah.
Journal, Alfie's
It was
version.
the
Oh,
brick
yes, I forgot
version.
about that.
Yeah, that was like the huge thing. I think a lot of the tweets that I saw, people were like, "Is it gonna be like that? Like, are they even writing this book? Is it gonna be just them? Like, is it? Do they have a ghostwriter? Because I think Zoella's ghostwriter scandal had broken at this point. I'm not sure though. Um, but everyone was kind of just annoyed at the fact that YouTubers were doing it, and I think if they had made this announcement maybe the year before, like if they'd had everything ready the year before, there wouldn't be that much backlash. But because it came after a bunch of YouTubers as well, people were already kind of tired of it, so they were like, oh no, another YouTube tour. Like, what are people who sit in their rooms making videos gonna do on tour? That was like a huge part of that.
Uh, Absolutely. I think if you look at like the history of YouTuber books up before this point, like there was not a whole lot of like positive stories about them. They were all like
Mm,
negative. So like why would Dan and Phil's be any different?
yeah.
So I think one of the big things like at this time when it was announced was I remember seeing so much on my timeline of people were disappointed in them. There were people calling them sellouts. I know that this like sparked like a huge cull in the fandom of people leaving because they thought that Belt and Phil were like just doing it for the money. They were just writing a book. It was just going to be like any other YouTuber book. It was going to be like a little boring Q&A sat on tour. Like they weren't going to be doing anything original or creative. And I think people were like, which is so stupid to look back on now because obviously I
I
suppose with
know.
hindsight we know, but people were like so disappointed in them. Like I remember, obviously I wasn't properly in the fandom, but I remember like being after like hearing people talking and just saying, oh yeah, like loads of people left like when TATINOF was announced and TATINOF because they didn't want to be around for it, which is crazy to me because
Yeah.
I had the complete opposite like reaction. I was sat in my bedroom like crying my eyes out in tears because I was so happy and excited that they were doing these exciting projects.
Yeah, exactly. So on my timeline, people were literally like deactivating their accounts, like in front of my eyes. That was what was
That's so
happening.
fun.
You have to realize at this point, they're not, I mean, at least on my timeline, I wasn't following that many adults because I'm 17. So everyone around me is the same age as me or a bit younger. So we all have these dramatic ass reactions to them. And I remember after Danville tweeted properly, like, we're going on tour, blah, 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 all the replies, even if you go now to those tweets, all those replies have people like, stop being so cringe, you're selling out, this is so dishonest, how could you do this to your audience, blah, blah, blah. Which is so interesting to think because I feel like if they had not toured until now and they went on their first tour now, they would have a completely different reaction. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose even though they are like touring now, the reaction to Tit it was like insane. Like
Hmm.
I don't think I saw any negative reaction to it whatsoever.
No, everyone was relieved. They were like, finally, we get like the post coming out tour that we wanted. I feel like that was something that people really, really wanted to do. So
How involved are you like in the fandom now, Sam? Like have you seen stuff about the tour? Are you going to the tour? Like what are your
I am
thoughts
going to
on
the tour.
Tit?
I'm like so
Exciting.
excited. I'm very excited. Yeah, it's like I'm way more into it than like my sisters are now because like they are more grown.
yeah,
They're just busy with their lives. They don't have time to go like online 24/7. So
that's
I'm
so
like dragging my eldest, the one that showed me my first info video. And I'm like, we are going. Like you are coming with me. I do not
good.
care like your plans. So yeah, we're going to the tit tour. I'm I'm like I think like I'm pretty involved with the fandom like now. I mean I have a Tumblr account because of Dan and Phil, so I blame them for my rotting brain. So Dan and Phil, if you're ever listening to this, just so you know, my problem is yours. Like you did this to me. Thank you so much. It really is great. No,
Yeah,
but yeah, I when Tit came out, I was like, oh my god! Like I knew it was gonna be a tour. I knew it was gonna be a tour because like there were so many hints, and everyone was like speculating whether it's gonna be like a documentary or like something else other than a tour. And I'm like, what? Like doing a tour just makes sense right now. I think it's really cool. And I think just like and like Tatinoff, like it was the first of it was more than just a tour, right? Like it was like a show. It was like a comedy show. It was like acting and like a dance number and it was so loud and like that, I think that's what for me like made it so different than any other like book tour thing because they did a whole last thing about it.
yeah, exactly. So, that's the thing, right? So they didn't show us anything about what the tour would be, which is why I think people were so side eye about it. Even now, like with it, we have no idea what's coming. But since we've seen what they've done for previous tours, we know they're gonna like make it worth it. Which is like a huge part of like the trust that they have built over the years with us and everything. Um, I love that you said. Wait, I just Sorry, lost my train of thought. Charlotte, can you take over? Just
I will take it.
Yeah.
I was gonna say. I was gonna say it was like obviously interested that you talked about like Tit being announced and like there were so many hints so that that's what it was going to be. But for like TATINOF, there was nothing. There was no secret hints. There was no like little Easter eggs that they dropped. It literally came completely out of the blue. There was no pre-warning. There was no like suspicion if they were doing anything. It literally just came out of nowhere. And I don't know how they kept it so secret because obviously the two tours that they've done since, and even Dan's as well, like we found out about them like a week before because some website has leaked the tickets or something like that. And I don't know if it was because maybe like, so another thing to know about TATINOF, for anyone that isn't aware, they were absolutely insane, which I think also caused a lot of stress for people, is that they announced the tour, uploaded that video, and tickets immediately went on sale, which is just insane way of
oh,
doing things.
Oh.
yeah. I remember. I do remember that because people were complaining about ticket prices at the time.
Yeah. I remember I was literally
Yeah.
like, I didn't really have anyone to go with, so I was literally like frantically waiting for my friend to reply to be like, yes, I can come with you and see them. And I could see like the ticket sales, like the seats were like going, and I was like, oh my god, I'm never going to get tickets to this. Like, this is insane. But I think that's what caused so much stress on that day, and like sort of made not like, I can't think of another, like not resentment, but a word that's not as bad as resentment. But like why maybe a lot of people were like stressed about it and were like, oh, why would they do this? Like, why haven't they given anyone like time to get tickets? But yeah, that was just incredibly stressful. But I just find it interesting how nothing about it leaked before they announced it. Whereas like with all the tours they've done since, there's always been
Have
something
leaked.
that's leaked. Yeah, there's always been
Yeah.
something that's like come out.
Even like their books and stuff, like Dan's book got leaked, I think. Um, but I think with this one, my theory for that is that they didn't know, like no one knew to look for it. Whereas with other stuff, if you maybe Google them at some point, the leaked info would just sort of come up. I don't know though because I don't know how that works. But with the tour, they gave us no hints, none of it, because they had kept their mouth shut since the end of 2014, and they've been working on it for like 3 months at this point, which is crazy because now they're so obvious about every single thing. Even without the leaks, they're like wink, wink, nudge, nudge, something's coming. Um, Not as obvious as they were with it, but before that as well, they were kind of
I think
whatever.
like concert culture is also just like so different. And I think
Mm-hmm.
especially because like these aren't like musical artists, these are like YouTubers slash comedians are so different like now and to then. And like I've seen because I've been going to like shows, like live shows my entire life. I'm just like in my obviously like my older sister. I'll give her like praise for everything because she is the one that like dragged me out of the house and took me to go see like comedy shows and stuff. And even then, like when they come out, like people have time. It sounds terrifying where you guys were at. It absolutely sounds like scary because like you have like now pre-sales and you have like ticket releases, you have times and like now you have Ticketmaster where everything's hell and like you're trying to get codes and whatever. And like I guess like it was none of that back then. You just bought a ticket if you had the money.
Yeah, basically, yeah. And I remember, so I saw a lot of tweets, which is insane. That actually a couple of other YouTubers at the time were discussing this out in the open, which you just don't see these days. At least I don't think so. But they were talking about how meet and greet tickets in the UK were £80 in
How I
2015.
wish tickets
I
were
wish
still
they
80
were for for meeting Dan and Phil. Are you kidding? And now I think everyone
It's
paid
almost
upwards of
it's almost
yeah.
double that. The tickets for Tit, that was almost double that, which is insane. It's awful.
Um and yeah, so people were complaining about that and the fact that it's just to like meet them, and then people who were defending them were saying it's only if you want to meet them. If you want to see the show, they can be cheaper. And another thing, this is not tour related, this is TATINOF related, but I think their book was a lot more, not a lot, a bit more expensive than the other YouTuber books, but that was only because it was hardcover and not paperback, like Alfie's would have been, for
Yeah.
example.
Very
But yeah.
good.
Yeah, I want to say their book was maybe like £18.99 in the UK or something like that,
Yeah.
which is quite expensive for like a book. But again, it was a hardcover book. It had all these pictures in it. It was pretty paper.
Yeah, they like made sure all of the like if you go in the behind the scenes, they made sure the paper was really good. So it makes sense, but it was just which like one of the complaints is like these are younger people watching them, like a younger audience. Which makes a lot of sense to me, just like you're asking them to spend money that they might not have necessarily, but again it's just choices and like it's I don't know, like in defense of Danville, this is their career at this point. So as an adult now, I'm like I'm not gonna knock them for trying to make money. But at the time, because they had such a young audience, I understand why people were really mad, because they were like, "What do you mean? My best friends Dan and Phil want money from me?" Um, like the parasocial was parasocial like, in 2015.
Honestly. So back to tour. So unlike with the other
Hmm.
tours that they've done since, I suppose because just not even because it was their first tour, but just in general, like a YouTuber tour. I mean, I don't say I think, I know this was like the biggest YouTuber tour to this date. I want to say, especially from the UK. I can't really speak for America much. I don't know what was going on over there.
I would agree because yeah, I would agree because after them, YouTubers got big and they started doing tours, and like American vloggers and stuff got really huge, and they probably had like bigger conventions and meet and greets and stuff. But definitely from the UK at the time, biggest tour, selling out like all the theaters, as far as I can remember.
I literally can't name like any. I think the only like American YouTubers that might have went on tour were like Miranda Sings, and like
Mm-hmm.
we didn't talk about her, so like, it probably wasn't a good show. No hate, no hate, but hate, hate. Um, I have, yeah, like America. It's just I think when we were, I know I was watching back on the Tatinoff documentary, and I was watching back about like how they did that tour like in 2 weeks to prepare, and like the set was like much more smaller in the UK since it was smaller venues, and then when they went to America, everything doubled because they just do everything like more over here, and so America really liked Dan and Phil, which I think is really funny. But I can't name you like a single YouTuber that like did what they were doing at that time.
Yeah. Just I don't think anyone did the like theatric show with the script and the dance number and
Oh,
just like
absolutely not. Yeah, they were one of a
offline.
kind in that sense.
Remember, they showed us a different kind of masculinity, and I appreciate that.
Yeah,
Men can sing
exactly.
and
And it
dance on
just
stage and wear gold
they
glittery
can
jackets.
wear God.
So my
What
point
a
was, I
moment.
was saying that unlike their other tours where they've announced everything at once, when this was announced, they initially just announced the UK part of the tour. There was no
Hmm.
talks of them going anywhere else in the world. It was just the UK.
Yeah. And
So,
so like did people I don't think there was any indication as well like that they would do more because they ended up going to Australia as well, right?
yeah, so
Um
they did Europe. Well, they did Europe. I say Europe. They went to Stockholm, Berlin, and Dublin.
all of Europe. Green
All of
ticking.
Europe. um, but yeah, and I suppose that's because this was like a whole brand new thing. So like nobody really knew. Like, well, is this going to sell? Like, I know that they've spoken before, like getting on tour and like trying to book venues is so difficult for like who they are, because they aren't a singer, they aren't like a band, they're not, you know, a big famous actor, they're just two guys on YouTube. So for a venue in America of all places to be like, yeah, come on, you can sell out a venue here or whatever, like that was a huge risk for them. So like I understand why they did it in these stages. But yeah, so they did the whole of the UK tour. They ended up adding extra dates in the UK because it was so popular.
Yeah.
And then it wasn't until February 2016 that they announced that they were going on tour in the US.
Oh. And then later on, obviously, Australia.
Yeah, so then they announced the Australian tour on June 17th and the European tour on October 28th. So a year after almost they started the tour, they went to Europe and did like 2 shows in Copenhagen, Berlin, not Copenhagen, Berlin and Stockholm and Dublin. But this was after it had been released on YouTube Red as well. So like people going to those shows will have already seen the show, probably, and then gone to go see it in person, which is so interesting to me that they did it like that.
It's interesting, but like not unheard of anymore. But I think it might have helped them more than not, because obviously if you've seen it on screen you will want to see it in real life, which is how I felt, because I hadn't seen or heard any spoilers before it was on YouTube Red. I just knew there was a song at some point. I remember watching it and I was like, oh, I wish I could go see this, because it was so cool. It was better than like anything anyone could have expected, in my opinion. Just again, like from your, like when you think, oh, what is a YouTube, even Dan and Phil, who are so dramatic and theatrical, right? You just can't imagine what they would do on stage, because they have this branding of, oh, we never leave the house, we don't know how to be people, blah blah blah, and then they just go on and do something so amazing. um but yeah, I understand the logic behind doing the Europe dates as well after releasing YouTube Red. I don't know.
Yeah. But yeah, it's just interesting that obviously did it in those like different sections. And then yeah. So they did the tour in the UK, which ended on the 15th of November. I was at the penultimate show. That's my claim to fame that I will die, that I would take to the grave.
At the Palladium, at the
At the
London
Palladium.
Palladium.
So what was crazy as well, so they did that last show the evening, and then literally I think the next day they flew over to America and they had like 2 book signings, I think, and like they were doing an interview or something with an American news
News
station.
station. I remember that. Yeah, I remember that.
But at the time, like that was all we had for like America. I think Americans thought that that's all they were going to go and get. Like they weren't going to get anything else, and it was crazy that they literally like finished the show, went to sleep, and then got a plane across to America and did some book signings and went on the news.
Yeah, but I think that was important for them to do, to help with the venue booking, because they needed to do all that promo and tell news people like, hey, we're valid and we're actual entertainers, and we need these venues booked so our viewers can come see us. Like they talked about it a bunch. I think Phil mentioned in his second Drama Life that that was such a stressful sort of thing to do by themselves, because later on you have these agencies that you're part of that just do all of that for you. They do the booking, they do the emails, they budget everything, but this was them just doing it by themselves, which is so interesting to me.
So, Sam, do you remember the first time you watched TATINOF? Where were you? What was the weather like? Was it hot or cold? What time of year was it?
I'm gonna be completely honest. Like I saw it full length in on my laptop like 3 weeks ago. I'm gonna be
What?
What?
Oh my
What?
god!
I'm like, don't. I know, listen, I know what the musical numbers are. I know the weird, funny TikToks I saw online of like the fan fiction part. That was
Mm-hmm.
silly. But just recently, I was on fan Twitter, which is a scary place, but it's also a really cool place because
I
someone had
agree.
linked it. Yeah, and like someone had linked the whole thing just recently, like on YouTube, Red. I think 3 months ago. So I'm like, if any of you want to find it, I
If you
think it's
want,
on
yeah,
YouTube.
yeah, go
And
ahead.
I was like, I should probably watch this before I do this episode. And I think a big reason of why I just like it's not like I was ever actively looking at because like Dan and Phil, a lot of things happens in this fandom. So it's like I never really had the urge to watch the whole thing. I will say that I did. I'm like, I'm sorry, Dan. I did hear like the illegal audio of the TATINOF book, of like the book, and I was like, oh, this is great. This is all I need. Like, I don't really need to watch the show. And then I watched the show, and I was like, oh, this is very 2015, 2016, and it's kind of hard to watch.
That's so interesting. I think we have like this cloud of nostalgia on, like our nostalgia goggles on, but it is very 2015. I just find it very funny that you had not watched it until recently.
I know. I'm so sorry. And the thing is, like, I really was watching Dan and Phil like obsessively, like when Interactive Introverts went on. So it's like I didn't really have the need to go back. I wanted to like be in the moment when they were going to this tour, and I was just like viewing from a parasocial lens.
That's fair. That is fair.
Listen, I was a
Um,
little busy. I was a little busy watching them cut each other's eyebrows off. Okay.
that's so fair. That's okay. Um, but no, the actual show. I haven't watched the entire thing in a while. I have obviously just like watched bits and pieces since then. It is very 2015, 2016, but I think it was very unexpected in so many places. Like, for example, the fanfiction section. I, if I had seen that with my eyeballs in 2015, I would have, like, turned into mush. I've been like, why are you acknowledging any of this? Please stop. Um, because it was just a wild thing for them to do at the time. We just did not break that barrier between us. Like, you stay in your lane, make the videos, and don't acknowledge the sicko freakness happening online. Thanks. Right? But I don't know.
No, that's
I don't
very
know.
true. I remember my first like reaction. So I saw Tatinoff 3 times in person, and that was my first time ever
Mm-hmm.
seeing them. So I think a lot of it for me was just the
It,
shock of looking at them in person and like seeing their faces, which was just insane. And then obviously then just getting over that, then just the shock and surprise of actually watching the show. So the musical number at the end, I was like losing my tiny mind watching that. And yeah, then the fan fiction. I know there's the whole sort of like lore about the cake scene from Tatanoff that I think
mm,
literally happened like
insane.
3 times. Do you know about the cake scene, Sam?
Is it when they feed each other cake
It is when they
or
feed
no?
each other cake.
It is.
And I was like, "Oh, that's cute. Okay, fun." Like, that's not homo at all. I don't know what you guys are talking about. Like, we're just feeding each other cake.
Honestly.
No big deal. And
Um,
watching like a bunch of little children scream.
but
Very funny.
yeah, so I think a lot of it for me was just sort of that the shock of like seeing them in person, and then I didn't have any VIP tickets originally. This is my like Tatanoff law. I never had any VIP tickets originally, but I have a friend who lives in Glasgow who had VIP tickets, and I get this random message from her one evening in the middle of September, and she's like, "Charlotte, I have VIP tickets for Tatanoff, but I can't go anymore because I'm going on a trip for uni to Brazil. to go to the Amazon. This sounds fake, but this is true. I promise.
Okay.
And she's like, I can't go anymore. Would you like my ticket? And I was like, yes, I would love your ticket. Please give it to me.
Please give it to me. Thank you.
That's
So
incredible.
I ended up like traveling up to Glasgow by myself, which was, I mean, it's literally like sort of a 3-hour train journey. It felt more terrifying back then. And I went to see them with my friend's sister because she was going with her sister. I'd never met her sister. I didn't know anything about her sister, but we both went and had a great time in Glasgow. I will be honest, a lot of that is blanked from my memory. I don't remember watching that show at all. I just remember lots of people shouting. Like, I think I did a tweet actually that the whole audience around me was like shouting like random words at Dan and Phil during the show. And I was like, please be quiet and respectful. Respect their space, please.
My God. Why would you shout during a show that has very little audience participation?
I wish
But
I
that
knew
is
Fizz.
incredible.
And
Yeah,
then
that is incredible.
yeah, so very thankful for her. And then I was able to go and see, like I said before, the penultimate show in London. So this was like one of the extra dates that they'd added, and they were doing a matinee and an evening show. So I got to go and see the matinee show with my friend. So I asked my friend who I went with if she wanted to share her thoughts on like the tour and the show in general, and she sent me like a whole essay, and I thought I could read that out for you now and provide some context. Maybe this will like
Please.
illustrate just how insane TATINOF was at the time. Like, I feel looking back on it, it feels like really tame because of what we've had, but like at the time, this was groundbreaking stuff.
Please go ahead. Please give us a dramatic reading of this.
So the friend that I went with, she was a pretty casual Dan and Phil viewer and decided to go along to TATINOF because she enjoyed watching their content and like the gaming videos, and I liked them and I was going and needed somebody to go with. So she said to me, she's like, I understand like why people shipped them, but I always just thought it was one of those friendships where they just get shipped, but there's no way they're together. Let's be real, every male friendship was a ship in that era, and she's so true. Literally any two men in 2015, that's it.
Yep.
They're gay and they're together and they're in love.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a great time
true.
watching it. Obviously, I'd already seen it at that point, so I like knew what was coming up. So I was like looking for her reaction because I feel like that's the best part of watching something that you've seen before. And she was like, then cut to the internet is here, and I was having a jolly time. And then it got to the line, it might be antisocial, wherein the choreography, they turned to look at each other. And in that moment, I witnessed true love for the first time, right in front of my eyes on that stage. I remember turning to look at you in complete shock. My life was never the same again. Truly, in that few seconds, it changed forever.
Wow, that's poetry.
It really
That's
is. If that's not a great review of TATINOF, I don't know what is.
She should put that in her letterbox, like the TATINOF tour letterbox, and she should just put it in there.
Honestly, that is so profound. Like, where were you when you found out that Dan and Phil are like the epitome of true love and companionship?
Honestly, and then we still talk about it to this day because it's so funny. I just remember like she turned to me and like I turned to her and she was like, they're in love. And I was like, yeah, they are, Kat. They are in love.
That is so cute.
And that was the beginning of the end for her. She's coming to see them with me next year. We're going to meet them together. We talk about them a lot. So it was all my fault. That was her downfall, really.
Oh my god.
TATINOF was the gateway drug.
You have to keep an eye out.
An eye out?
Yeah, you have to keep an eye out for her when y'all meet them, because she might explode.
Yeah.
I think she might. I'm very excited to see her meeting them. I'm very excited. That's a whole other tangent anyway. So yeah, that's sort of the show. Did anyone else have anything they wanted to say about the show? I feel like there's no point in sort of going through every little bit individually.
Yeah, no, it was just very groundbreaking stuff at the time. That's all you need to know about
Like,
the show.
yeah, it was just insane. It wasn't just them doing a Q&A on stage. They had choreographed things. Phil had learnt magic. Phil had learnt magic for the people. He'd learnt how to
I
do
know.
magic tricks.
Oh my
Can
god.
I can I just say something? Sorry. The fact that Dill's head has survived TATINOF, moving house again, and was just in a video yesterday. Like
Crazy.
that's crazy to me.
I need Dill to be in it, please.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Very impressive. I want to know the exact measurements of how big that head is. Because, like, props to the people who have to, like, put that over their forehead. It's not, it hasn't been cleaned, you guys. Like, I really
It has
do
to be.
thank PJ and whoever else was under that. And, like, whatever, like, stage crew person had to, like, put it on and had to, like, learn a line. Like, I
Oh
need to know,
wow.
like, how big that is compared to them, because they're already huge. Jennifer are big boys, and so it's like, does it just take up like a space in a room somewhere? It's being dusted off now, but like that poor little like that little head. I hope it's okay, and it is okay. We just saw it.
I wonder what it's made of because I always thought it was like paper mache or something,
Yeah, I
right?
thought it was paper
But
mache.
but it survived everything, and it's not
Who knows?
crumpled or anything.
Who
So
knows? Maybe it's
Maybe,
like hot.
maybe. Oh no, I'm sorry. Go.
No, it's okay. Go on.
No, I was just like, what if it has like its own room in the house? Like, what if it has
The
its
Dill
own?
head room.
Yeah. It's like, oh, I'm sorry. Like the builders in the house, like you can't go in there, and everyone thinks, like, what do they have in there? And it's just like this head, this sim head.
I would not be surprised because last time it was in the gaming room, and this time it's not in the gaming room. So
It has
it
its own
probably
room. It's upgraded.
yeah
It has its own room in the
fun
house.
in the house.
Yeah, it has a little name tag and everything
Yeah, I imagine it like in a
on the door.
museum. It's on like a little plinth, and there's a little name tag underneath it.
Yeah.
The Dill head.
Uh,
Born 2015.
Born 2015 to just like infinity sign because it will outlive both of them and all of us. It'll just be Dillhead and cockroaches when the world ends.
I hope the Dill head is at their funerals when they die. Like, I hope someone is wearing the Dill head to the funeral.
It's probably gonna be PJ.
Was that a bit too morbid? Was that too morbid to say?
Okay.
I get it though. It's like, well, what else is gonna be at their funeral? Nothing except a head of their sim of them together. It's a metaphor, you
Hmm.
guys.
It's true. It's true. Who else but their biological son?
It is interesting that, like, a lot of the chat, like, at the time, I think, and then since, is who was Dill? Like, who was it? Like, what member of the crew was it? Was it someone different every night, or was it the
Yeah,
same person? And we still don't know. There's still no answer. That's the greatest mystery in the world. Who was Dill?
it was Dill. They got him out of the game. I thought that was obvious. No. No, but actually, like, we still don't know. They didn't, like, credit the person or anything
No, they
anywhere.
didn't.
R.I.P. to like the hundreds of Dills out there who had to do that once in their life. I hope they got a big tip.
What a claim to fame, honestly.
Imagine having that on your resume. Was Dill at The Amazing Tour is on fire.
I'm just imagining like a professional actor, like that's on his like show reel, like he's going for auditions, and it's like, wait, what is this? Who's Dill? What is The Amazing Tour is Not on Fire? And it's like, yeah, I played a sim in this in this show. Nobody knew it was me because I wore a giant replica head of this sim.
But trust me, it was. Can you imagine if it was Nicholas Galitzine? Sorry.
Why would it be
Oh, oh my.
I'm so sorry. Hi, Sam. Welcome to the show.
Oh me, oh my.
I don't think it's Nicholas Galilee.
I don't think it was either. Oh my god. Oh my god.
No.
There is a theory.
I'm going to
Tweet
spread the rumor.
Go ahead.
That's a new Twitter thread.
Yeah.
That's a new Twitter thread, and it's just for me, and I'm going to send it to Roz.
Yeah, exactly. I think Ross would appreciate it.
She really
Oh my
would.
god.
Oof. Anyway, wipe the tears from my eyes. I would, just on a tangent of that, I would like to sue Dan and Phil for having the phrase "Shote Zombo" stuck in my head for the rest of my life. I will never forget those two words. Thank you, Dan and Phil.
There's a few things we want to sue them for, but that's a good reason,
That's top of
honestly.
the list.
Yeah.
It's crazy that the Sims like let them do that. They're like, yeah, no problem. Whatever you want, Denonville.
Yeah, I want to see the email thread that has all of that. Like Phil just being like, "Hi EA, so since you won't pay us for playing your game on our channel, can we recreate the sim that we made for our live show? And you guys be okay with that?" And someone had to like put that through corporate at EA and be like, "Hey, this is the thing that's happening. Can we do
It
that?"
had to be a fan, right? Like it had to be one of us. And they're like,
Like,
yes, of course.
yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, I know. It must have been like some fanny that is in some department, like fucking like marketing or whatever, and they're like, "Yes, you should definitely allow that. Like, yes, please. Um, and please tell me what it's about." And then that person had whatever. Like, I'm just scenarios in my head.
So, this is the section I like to call the after party.
The
I didn't.
after party.
Sam, are you aware of the after party?
I am aware of the after party.
You
Excellent.
are
I
amazing. Okay.
So, I don't know if this is as impactful as it is in my head, or if I've just built this up so much, because this was my branding for like a solid 6 months on Twitter.
Yeah. Yeah. You weren't known as Charlotte at all. It was after party Charlotte.
It
That's
was.
the name you
I changed my display name on Twitter to After Party Charlotte. That's who I was for 6 months, because it and I still can't quite explain like why it sort of shook me to my core so much. But for those who don't know, they did their last show in London on the 15th of November, and they went to a bar in Covent Garden in London where they invited all the friends that had come to, and fellow YouTubers that I think were with the same talent agency as them, to come and see the show. They invited them all back to this bar afterwards where they had cocktails named after themselves. There was like photo booths, there was mingling and chatting, and it was just like a whole party dedicated to them that their management had put on. And it was a party for them. And we only have one single clip of them at this after party. Thank you, Louise Sprinkle of Glitter, for sharing this gift upon us. And the little clip of them looking happy at the camera will forever live rent free in my brain. And I will think about it for the rest of my life.
honestly. Such a moment in time to have that after party. Just like they got all dressed up. Dan wore his little like Harry Styles shirt that he had. That appeared after like ages, by the way. Like we had not seen that shirt for like 2 years. Um,
The Harry Styles shirt.
the skull shirt that he wore. How do we explain the Harry Styles shirt? The was it McQueen, Alexander McQueen shirt that he wore at the Brits?
It was
Um,
Alexander McQueen, yes.
yes. Thank you, fan outfits. So it was a gray, no, a silver and black shirt that he wore at the Brit Awards the same time as Harry Styles at the same event. So it's just lovingly known as the Harry Styles shirt in the fandom. Uh, but he wore that. They had the drinks made, which are insane drinks. I look back at the image, like the picture that Dan shared, and they both are kind of crazy with the ingredients in those drinks.
Yeah. So Phil's had vodka Malibu, blue Curacao, pineapple bitter, and lemonade. That would be my choice. That sounds like a
Same,
me kind of drink.
same. Dan sounds
Uh,
disgusting, but
yeah,
probably
Dan's
less
was
of a
yeah.
hangover.
Dan's was patron cafe, espresso, and vanilla. Not for me.
No. Tequila, bitter coffee, and then just vanilla. Ugh. No,
Yeah,
no, thank you.
that is exactly what like every 21-year-old in like I don't know if it's the same in like in like the UK or like Europe, but like espresso martinis are everywhere right now. So that is
Hmm.
very of him, funnily enough.
Yeah, it was a very like mid 20s thing of him to do, but Phil is literally just like sugar. Um,
Sugar and liquor, that's how he goes.
yeah, good for him. I think it would have killed anyone who had more than two of them, but what a way to go with a tasty drink in your hand. I prefer it.
Yeah, but I think the after party is just very special to me. Like I'd come home after that final show and I was just like full of emotions and happiness. And I remember someone had posted like a video clip of them leaving the theater and getting into a car, and like the streets were just lined with people like shouting and
Yeah,
cheering and like applauding them, and there was like security leading them out. They felt like proper celebrities. And then they were driven to this like private bar that had been closed off just for them, and they had their own little private party. And I think I was just feeling lots of emotion, which is why I became sort of so attached to it. But I just think it's just such a nice and special thing that they had, that they like their management decided to throw them this like surprise party. Because I suppose at this point, like there was no talks. There might have been a few little rumors for them, but there was nothing like official that they were going to be doing this tour again. Like that could have just been it.
yeah. Yeah, so I think it makes sense that they did the after party just in case it didn't happen. But also, I just to sort of like I don't know round up, I guess, because Tatinov was supposed to be a celebration of all that is the Danville universe. To that point, I think the after party just is also part of that. Like it's just celebrating the fact that they did all of that and they did it successfully and everyone loved it and um I just really understand why it has such an effect on you because you had also just seen what could have been one of the last shows of the tour.
But thank God it wasn't, and thank God that they carried on doing the tour. And I'm really grateful. I think that I joined like fanny Twitter when I did. I think I joined it at like just the right time
Hmm.
before tour started, that I could get excited with like the build up, and then I was there for everything. So Tatinoff, I did like I got so involved with like Fanny Twitter, and I was doing like as Fizz will remember, she helped me to do. I think we've spoken about on the podcast before as well. I was like doing outfit polls and getting people to guess what outfits they were going to wear, like for each meet and greet, and it became this like huge thing, like for me, that
Yeah.
really helped me feel part of something and like part of this little community.
Yeah, like we went a really long way, I think, from the announcement and the mixed bag reactions of it to when tour started and as it went on. I think one existing viewers like loved it, and then it brought on newer people who were so excited to be part of that community. And I think the fandom at the time, was at its peak. I would say, or reaching its peak of just community and good vibes. Like there was just yeah, there was just a lot of um community again, just because people were meeting them and then they would make little group chats being like, hey, is everyone meeting them, get in here. Or even if you were going alone, you could find friends um and go with them. It was just a very like good time to be in the fandom. I think any tour, but especially that off.
Yeah, so I was speaking to my friend Lena, who sort of joined in like early 2016, I want to say. So she got to go to the Europe tour, and I just sort of asked her like, well, what were your thoughts, like how and opinions like on the fandom and everything, and she sort of gave like the opposite sort of opinion, which I think is interesting. So she said to me that like joining Fanny Twitter like at that time when everyone was already sort of like clicky, and I suppose 2015, 2016 was like the big Fanny Twitter boom because of Tor. She said that the fandom felt like quite intimidating and that there were lots of like hierarchy within the fandom, which I think that was definitely like such a huge thing back then, just with every fandom, that there was like these people like have the most followers and have got the most notices from Dan and Phil, so they're at the top, and you like are brand new and you have like 2 followers, so you're dirt to us. It doesn't matter about you.
That's fair. That's fair. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But like fandom itself in general was so small that that just happened, and now it's just not a thing anymore. But you're right. That's really interesting. Mm.
And that's about everything. I didn't really have anything else I was gonna discuss. Oh, I forgot one thing about the after party.
Basically, okay.
There's just
Sam, do
so
you
much to
know?
talk about.
Is this the rumor or no?
It
Or
might
just
be.
something else? Okay. So okay, let me. Can I just like lead in with this and then you can tell
You
it?
can go on.
Okay.
I love that this
Sam,
has just
do
turned
you
into
know?
us telling Sam stories and Sam is listening.
I'm just like on my bed, just like enjoying. I'm like, give me the lore.
So,
Give me comedy.
so little known fact about the after party. Allegedly, according to some sources, is that Dan and Phil smoked weed at the after party.
Oh my god.
They did. They smoked so much
They,
weed and they did body shots off strippers. It was crazy. My uncle
Oh,
worked at the venue, and that's how I know all of this information.
that is 100% true. Like, it's just what happened, and that's why there's no pictures of them at the after party.
That's why they're yeah, exactly.
that makes like complete sense. Like, yeah, why wouldn't they? Why wouldn't they get high off their asses? It's their
Yeah.
Exactly.
party. They can do whatever they want.
Exactly.
Um yeah, so I had tweeted like quite harmlessly. I don't even know where it came from. Like the day after the after party, saying I probably shouldn't share this, but my friend's uncle works at the bar they were at, and apparently they were doing body shots.
Oh my god.
And then I was like, oh my god, apparently some guy in a blue shirt, Phil, I'm guessing, was walking around and kissing everyone on the cheek.
I would believe that. Like, even if you hadn't, if someone had just said that, I'd be like, yeah, that makes sense. Actually, maybe it would have been if someone had said Dan was doing that, I would have been like, yeah, makes sense.
But yeah, so I tweeted that, and obviously, like, people believed it because I think it was just sort of vague enough that it was believable.
Of course they would believe it. Are you kidding me? I'm
Yeah,
like, remember? I forgot what it was during the tour, wasn't it? When Dan had that steamer or something like for
Yeah,
his, and
yeah.
then like the mom was like, "How dare you like display this sort of behavior online in your platform with so many young people?" It's like Dan and Phil are grown ass men, but at the same time, they're not. And that's a
yeah.
very
So I tweeted that, and then
Charlotte, you're crazy. You really
um,
were stirring the pot.
no, I tweeted that like quite harmlessly, like nothing happened for that. And then my friend Lucy responded to that, which I can't find the tweet now, annoyingly, being like, "Oh no, I heard that they were doing like weed or something," and oh my god, people were like losing their mind because they like obviously believed it and were like, "Oh my god, I can't believe that Dan and Phil would ever do weed. This is so terrible. I didn't expect them to be these kind of
Like,
people."
oh my god, our little babies. How could they?
My
Our
small
small
Oh my
beans.
beans.
god. That's so
Um,
funny.
yeah. Would like to clarify as a disclaimer, they weren't doing weed. But if they were, that was okay. But all of what we've just said, that was all false. It was just made up for fun on Twitter.com.
Oh yeah, 100%. Like, no, this is not true. This is false information. It's just a little hee hee ha ha between friends.
Very hee.
Definitely.
But it's fun. You can like go back and look at these tweets. Just like go on Charlotte's account and just type the word weed in the search. It's a good time.
Yeah, they're all there. So I do have some other fun stories from tour that I managed to find.
Yes.
Speaking of fun tour stories, so there was a story. Dan accidentally like kicked a prop at somebody in the audience and gave them like this massive bruise, and then he like sent them a DM saying like I'm so sorry, and then ended up sending them this like signed photograph of him like with the box that he'd kicked at them.
So silly. He's such a silly guy.
He really is. It's so funny, and I that would be so iconic of them to then own that.
To own
I
that,
thought,
yeah.
like-
I hope they have it.
I thought like he was gonna give her the block, like not a picture. Like that's funny. Him just being like, Phil, take this picture really quick. We need to set. We need
And
to
to like
set this.
sign it and everything, yeah. I hope the person still has it.
Another story that I just found. So someone had like done this a lie on Twitter, as people always do. I can't believe people lie on the internet. God, who would do such a thing?
Who indeed?
Who indeed? Someone had lied about something, and it was a TATINOF update account on Twitter that had said someone on Facebook had said that they'd like slapped Dan's ass during the meet and greet and got like taken away.
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
But like I'd done this like super serious tweet before it, like, oh my god, whether it's the tiniest thing or something much bigger, don't ever lie about harassment or non-consensual contact. And like looking back at that now, like, oh my god, how overdramatic of me. But like that is just so funny. Like imagine lying about that. Imagine lying and saying, yeah, I slapped Dan's ass and got taken away from the meet and greet.
That is crazy.
And it's Phil that has the ass. No offense to Dan.
No, that's
But, like,
so true.
not
Phil is all ass.
Damn.
And then I don't think this is from TATINOF. I think this is from VidCon. I don't know, or a playlist live, but it's just come to my mind. I remember somebody lied on Twitter and said that Dan had farted while they met him.
Oh, I remember that.
Oh my god.
I remember that. I thought it was I, so I didn't bring it up. But
I don't know where it was. I feel like it was a VidCon or something in my head. And they lied and said that Dan had farted when they met him, and it was really smelly.
Oh, I'm nervous too. He was just a little nervous, you guys. Stop lying.
Alright, so other than those lovely stories that Charles has reminded us of,
You're welcome.
we did get a couple of messages on Tumblr with because we had put out a request asking, if you have any memories or funny stories from TATINOF, please let us know. And so we got a couple of them. So let me just read them out. First one is anonymous, but they said, in a bizarre twist of fate, I missed Danville's first tour because I was busy with school. This is like a general tour thing. I'm again missing this tour because I'm busy with school, but this time I'm the teacher, lol. That's so sad.
That
That's
is
so
very
sad.
sad. But what a lovely full circle moment for you.
Yeah. We hope you
It was
find
just
another.
foreshadowing.
Yeah, we hope you find another date that you can go to. The second one is a TATINOF related one. And it's from Butch Clues on Tumblr. Um, it goes, I literally nearly broke my ribs on the way to see TATINOF when I was 13. We were getting the bus to the arena, and I was climbing on a metal fence next to the bus stop with my brother, and I slipped and hit my ribs really hard on the railings. It hurt like hell, and my mom wanted me to get checked out of the hospital. But I was like, absolutely not. We're going to see Dan and Phil. That's insane.
Oh
the
no.
dedication. They did say that their ribs were fine, and TATINOF was the best experience of their life so far. Um,
Oh my.
That's so true, though. I would go to meet Dan and Phil if I had like just broken my arm. My arm could be hanging off, and I'd be like, "No, I have to meet
Yeah.
Dan and Phil first. I'm sorry."
I'd be
Like
like, "Can you sign my arm?"
I have plans. There are goals I have to check today.
Exactly.
Broken ribs will not. No, it was not part of the plan, and it won't be part of the plan.
Nothing will get in my way between me and Dan and Phil.
Real.
Yeah. Real.
I think that's sort of everything. That's all my 2 pages of notes. That's pretty much everything we've
Uh,
discussed.
let me. Yeah, no, I have nothing that's like
Let
that
me
we
just have
haven't
another
so
double
much.
check through some tweets that I bookmarked.
A fun fact, I guess, is their LA show, the one that they filmed, was actually they did it at the Dolby Theater, which is where the Oscars are held, which I think is pretty cool.
That is a very cool fact, and well done to them, to be honest.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my god. I don't know if we want to bring this up, but I was wondering if we were gonna bring it up.
Hmm.
This not the tour. It's more the book signing because there is
The
this clip.
dad, the
Yes,
dad.
the
It's
dad.
not. It's not really Dory. I don't remember the exact context of it. I don't know why that I was so angry at them.
Yeah,
So it was the week after they'd finished TATINOF in the UK. It was one of those book signings when they went to America.
Right. Right.
Um, and I think it was obviously just like really chaotically organised. It hadn't been managed very well. And I think the basic context behind it was that these people had been queuing for hours and hours and hours, whatever, and they hadn't got their book signed. They hadn't been able to meet Dan and Phil because, for whatever
Mm,
reason, either the venue had like oversold tickets or something, or it took longer than they thought. So this dad, obviously, who'd like accompanied his kids, was like obviously saw Dan and Phil like going to leave and was obviously like sort of I suppose like rightfully kicking off, maybe not doing it in like the best way. Like I'd probably speak to
mm,
someone privately rather than like shout
Mhm.
across a bookstore. But it's
right.
like, hey, like my kids, we've been queuing to meet you and like, they haven't met you yet. And Dan just goes like a full sass and is just like, what's the issue? He does a little hip hop and that lives in my head. I can picture it right now. I can see it. I can hear the girl recording saying, "Oh my god, Dan's just getting shouted at."
Oh my
Um,
god. Yeah. What a
and I
time.
think, like, obviously Dan and Phil, like, I mean, Dan takes charge, but like they're both super like apologetic about it. And I think Dan is just like classic perfectionist people pleaser and is like, what do you want us to do? Like, we'll come and sign your book, like whatever you want, like we'll come and speak to you, blah blah blah. And I don't know what happened after
Yeah.
that. I think the issue got resolved, but good moment. Thank you
Yeah,
for
it
bringing
must
that
have
up,
been.
Sam.
Yeah, I was just like the first time again, like I just like little old me on YouTube finding like these behind the scenes, like, oh so fun. And then like you come across this one and I'm like, oh my heart just like breaks for that little girl.
Yeah, you don't get to see moments like that ever. But I know that it looked like they handled the situation pretty well. I wonder where she is
Yeah.
now.
Like I hope she's okay. I hope she's coming to tip.
I hope she's going to
I hope
take
she's coming to
you.
tit as well. If you're out there and you're
I,
listening to this episode, contact us, please.
I hope you go to tip, girl. I hope you do.
We've reached the end of our TATNOF episode, part one of Dan Philog on tour. Um,
But
we
this
hope you
time it's
enjoyed
best
it.
friends on tour, best friends club on tour.
Whoa, we just came up with that. Thank you, Charlotte.
You're
Um,
welcome.
but that was the episode. Sam, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's been so fun. Um, Next episode is a pretty fun one, I would say. It's I wonder if newer like viewers know about it. It's a Danville lick race, which without context sounds interesting. Um, But that's all
What?
we'll say about that.
Yes.
Danville Licorice.
Dan
Think
and Phil
about it.
Licorice.
Mm.
Kings of clickbait titles.
Yep. Even back
But
in 2014.
2014.
But yeah, thank you all for listening.
We will be
are
following
gonna
this
go
up.
now.
Yeah, we will be following this up with an episode about interactive introverts. If anyone would like to come and join us to chat about interactive introverts, please let us know. We're going to discuss them all in the run up to TIP. So that'll be exciting. But yeah, thank you so much for listening. Thank you, Sam, for joining us. We will see you all next time.
Bye!
Bye!